All right, we're back on the podcast. We're in person, and welcome back to the podcast, Boss Man. Yo. So what I want to do is follow up on a listener request this week and share some of what we're thinking about, the highs, the lows from the past 12 months, some stuff that's come up in our business, and we'll share some sort of news and insights and stuff that we've been thinking about, what's coming up in the next few months. First, I want to start with this question that was inspired by last week's podcast, which is simply this: can you break through a growth plateau for less than 200K a year? So this is the challenge. I like it. It's an open question. So I'm sitting here racking my mind. Have we ever seen this? Or is this just a trap that founders who've gone from 0 to 1, they've started their company, they've got a team that they fall into? And I think the answer is, yeah, it's basically a trap. Now, the crazy thing about being a founder is there's more traps, because you can also get into the trap of hiring the $250,000 person, and then you got to cross your arms for 6 months. They've got no risk. You're taking on all the risk, and hope that the strategy they're bringing in from somewhere else is going to work great for your company. Doesn't often play out that well either. But there are some things that work out better. Last year at DCBKK, I made a talk called "Where Are You Going to Get Your Next $1 million in Revenue?" Something that we did. We broke through a plateau. And I didn't go up there and talk about all the growth experiments that we ran. I went up there and talked about getting your operation on rails. The number one answer, I'll stop burying the lead, is that the next growth plateau is going to come from the founder. So if that's the case, then we need to remove the blocks from founders being able to take on those risks, and to inspire the team around you to take risks as well, which is what we do. And it's very hard to ask somebody to do that in general, in life, in business, at any salary rate, right? That's the entrepreneurial gig.
Yeah.
And so, if you want to unlock the next $1 million, what we need to do is get rid of this "I'm stuck in the delivery, I'm stuck in the operations" excuse. And you can dream about hiring a GM who takes the problem off your plate, or you can stick your fingers into the moving engine and try to figure out what the key critical parts are. And so that's this whole thing about finding the seal, getting your financials right, creating your plans, simplifying the whole thing with scorecards and a pulse. So now back to this concept. We can either hang out and do more of a lifestyle type of business, enjoy the cash flow, and start to think about it in this time in for money out perspective, which is totally cool. But a lot of us start to think, I'd like a little bit more money out. That'd be nice. And so now we got to go into growth mode.
Yeah.
Well, dang, guess what? That responsibility is on your plate too. That's what we signed up for. And you're not going to be able to write a memo to the team and talk about this thing and get the kind of speed of iteration and execution that a growth plateau, especially one that's going to be $1 million or more, is going to require. You're going to need to wreck some shop, move some paper, and you're going to need to break things. It's very hard to ask others to do that, no matter how good the memo is.
Yeah. Can you hire somebody for less than $250,000 a year that can do that? I think that in some cases, the answer is yes, actually. But it's tricky. It's nuanced, like you said. So you could catch someone at the right moment in their career, right before they become a founder. And you could pay them a large salary, maybe some equity, something like that. And you could get lucky.
This is like that hanging out at the back of rock clubs strategy, where you're looking for the band that no one else has found yet, and you're going to sign them first.
100%. The cool thing about investing in your operations is on some level, it further legitimizes your business without you. Worst case scenario, I don't find the growth, but now I only work 5 hours a week. I make a great income and my team is happy and they make income too. Because I do think it's the case that you'll go out and you'll try to find growth 3 or 4 times and you just won't find it. Maybe it's just over for your industry, or you've reached some kind of plateau in your business. There's a million reasons why your business will never get to $10 million.
So one of the other things, in terms of this concept of just optimizing your operation, is you can grow 15 to 20% a year, that approach.
Totally.
And this would be what we talk about, this path to wealth of just you're hanging out in your business and you're inspiring the team, you're putting good policies in front of your customers, you're dealing with everything in a respectful way, the market's decent. And sure, like give it time.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing some of that right now. You got to put the team in place to operate the business. Then you get the baseline metrics going for the business. Everybody understands which metrics they're responsible for. And then you start to improve them.
Yeah.
Right. So you start to say, well, this metric was 10% last month. What is it going to take to get that to 15%? And then if everybody raises whatever numbers they're responsible for by a couple points, before you know it, at the end of the year, you're up 10 or 15%.
Table stakes for a healthy, growing business. Yeah. And that can be good enough because you can try all this growth stuff. And then, wow, all of a sudden, this thing doubled in 4 or 5 years and we're still cruising. And the other element is that you just really never know what's going to happen in the market. The reality is you can always try to be that one actor in the market that has the outsized returns, but your chances are relatively low. But then the market can take off. One of the things we noticed in our business is our job board is like the last 2 months, it's just like pumping, right? All of a sudden. And as far as we can tell, we did nothing. It's like 100% due to something happening in the remote job space. When you have a good system in place, a good product, you are subject to the larger machinations of the marketplace. All right, let's get moving on to some news. What are some things going on behind the business? I mean, we did a couple episodes within the past few years about just our pursuit of this every dollar accounting and financial sophistication in our business. And recently the CFO, the person who helped us put all this in place, left the company. And it was a pause for reflection. You know, when someone leaves, you ask yourself, is this a critical position? Is this a critical role? How are we going to go out and recruit somebody to replace this person? And how useful is it in our business right now? So I'm just curious about your general thoughts about our CFO leaving.
It was a bummer for us, for sure. They left to be with their family more. I think like me and you, maybe we simplify our business when we talk about it to people, and then they get in there and like, oh, guys, this is pretty complicated.
Yeah.
You got these accounts and this and that going on. Transaction volume is maybe higher than you said it was on the phone. But I think she did a really great job setting us up to have complete financial intelligence and visibility. And the reason we want to have that, obviously, is so we can make better decisions in the company and make them faster. And then, yes, we had to make the decision, like, do we need this ongoing? And the answer, I think, was a quick yes.
Quick yes.
And it was like, how do we get this next person in as quick as possible? So we got the new person in place. And I think this is always the case. It doesn't matter how good the last person was. They found some things that weren't up to par. We were like delinquent on a couple of things. I don't think anything that was like a national disaster or anything like that, but this is always the case, right? It was kind of a rough 3 or 4 months of transition. I think that's a pretty good indication that a position is important to you.
One of the concepts I want to refresh our memories on is like that your controller is like in the business of you. They understand at an executive level what's happening with every financial practice personally to a degree.
Yeah.
From the business perspective, they understand what everybody's getting paid, what the bank account looks like. And they're like HR adjacent because of those reasons. And so when we were interviewing new controllers, every single person that we interviewed essentially reported this to me. Like they are so close to the founders in terms of the personalities, in terms of the challenges the businesses face. That has an enormous potential for every founder to get that financial person on their side. It's like night and day when you can get that implemented in your business versus when that's on your plate and you're kind of relying on a bookkeeping team or an accounting team to like shuffle around the invoices and put it into QuickBooks. It's a different world when you're getting visibility on what matters to you and you can trust it. So the moment that a business should make that transition, like I think that that's the moment when this investment starts to make sense.
If you have that feeling where you're like, oh man, I can't make a good decision because I don't know how much money we made, or I don't know how much I can spend, or I don't know how much I'm making personally. Whenever that starts to be a question, I think it's time to get somebody in there. And to your comment about scope creep, once you get that person in there, you're like, oh wow, this person can do all kinds of things for me. It's like, tell me what my LTV was during this period. Tell me what my churn was. What if we increase pricing by 2%? What would happen then?
They're conscientious. So what they know in the back of their head is like, oh, that's a 60-hour project or whatever.
So all of a sudden you get the bill and you're like, oh, did I need to know all those things? Probably not.
It's like you're at a restaurant, you're really hungry and there's no pricing on the menu. And you're sort of like, yeah, I'll take the shrimp cocktail as well.
Exactly.
You know?
Market rate for the mussels are probably not that much.
I wanted to bring this up because the former guest on the podcast, Dan Norris, wrote an extremely interesting roundup post about the demise of the last company he founded called Black's Hops Brewing. They were actually acquired, so the brand still exists. But the company, as Dan had founded it, was dissolved. There's this one moment in the story where there's 3 founders and they can't agree on how solvent the company is financially. And I was just like really trying to wrap my mind around it. It's like both super relatable and wholly unacceptable. If you're listening to this, you're not sure about how your business responds financially. That's an opportunity for an objective source of truth. And then you can map your ideas, your risk taking on that objectivity. It's just hard to be objective when people have different values, they have different perspectives. And we can have those going on in ourselves at once. And we can be basing our behavior on things that are entirely untrue, potentially. We talked about these growth tasks and optimization tasks. One big growth thing that we've done recently is we launched DC Black. And deciding that we were going to have a premium tier of the DC was always something we had thought about. A lot of the past year has really been about ramping up around that growth and optimizing delivery around it. Because now you've got all these customers and there's a lot to do for them. So I just wanted to mention, people are asking about what we're up to. These 3 events, not only have we added a lot of experiences for DC Black members, but now we have a Barcelona event, a New York event, and a Thailand event. So there's just so much optimization and figuring that goes into this stuff. So just one example is we've gotten really good reviews for these events. One of the strategies that we kind of backed into was this concept of we're going to run these DC Black events. Our P&L for the event is going to be zero profit. But the idea was sort of inspired by need at the beginning, which is like you get a better community experience when people come to the events and connect with each other. Ultimately, we thought if you can arrange your membership so you're making your gross margin on the membership and you have very good financial planning, you can break even on your events and still have a good business on your hands. So the hypothesis behind all that, which I think is true, which is like more people will come to the event if it's got a great value price.
70% of our DC Black members come to at least one event a year, and they buy that ticket pretty soon after they join the community.
Yeah.
There is a difference between the greater community and DC Black members in that type of behavior.
Right.
So we started to look at that as a metric to see how we're doing. And then there's another really important metric for these communities, especially ours, which is people meeting in person.
Yeah.
So people meeting in person for us is really important because it means that they're fulfilling what most of these people want to do, which is meet other entrepreneurs.
It's like the job that they're hiring the DC Black to do.
Correct.
Which is like, I only know a few multi-million-dollar founders that I can talk to. I want to know a couple handfuls.
Correct.
And you hire DC Black, you come to New York or Barcelona or Bangkok or whatever, and then the job has begun to be done.
Right.
You went to Costco and got the giant shrimp cocktail, but you know the price.
So we bring this up just to talk about our roadmap and what we've done with DC Black. It started 2 years ago. I still feel like we're very much in the thick of trying to figure out the product, not baseline figure out the product, but really grow a great product there.
Yeah.
Now we've got several events a year.
Just at the top level, there's 5 in-person touch points, not counting like ad hoc meetups. We've got a number of virtual things happening, plus monthly masterminds facilitated by professionals. It's like you go out with this growth idea, you launch it. There's a ton of work to launch, like iteration and phone calls and documentation and everything. Now you're spinning up these unique one-off events that change every time. Jesse was mentioning to me on the beach that I referenced in the last episode. you do this growth thing and then you've got to do the optimizations that you got to deliver. That's been really a theme for us in the past year.
We've been putting out the word that remote first recruiting is helping you hire in Latin America. Here's 2 success stories. The first from a founder who had a $2,000 a month budget. We found him 3 interviews in the first week. He had a hard time deciding which one to go with. One of them had a PhD. They all had relevant experience and incredible English skills. The thing he said to me, and he almost said it like sheepishly, like, these candidates are actually better than the candidates I was looking at in America previously. How about that? We recently helped a company hire in Argentina for just $25,000 a year, and we did it in 14 days. That is a client-facing, experienced English speaker. So if you're interested in getting started hiring in Latin America, just schedule a 15-minute call with our lead recruiter, Greg Valentine. He can get you started then and there. So you're just one 15-minute call away from your next great team member. Check them out over at remotefirstrecruiting.com.
One other news item I wanted to bring up is the DC Accelerator. I wanted to do like a quick debrief. DC Accelerator was a $5,000 a year membership that promised 4 coaching calls with a coach on our team, plus virtual sessions, some masterminds, 1 in-person event. And basically this idea, like continuing education, like let's keep it moving at a $5,000 price point. That was our idea, because you're looking at one-on-one coaching, which costs anywhere from $3,000 to $15,000 a month.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these businesses are doing $250,000, $500,000, might not have the budget for that, would prefer to like hire a team member. And so maybe they can join DC Accelerator and keep ticking off boxes and improving their business with other people who are doing the same. We had 54 DC Accelerator members. And for both of us, doing the one-on-one coaching calls in DC Accelerator gave us some of the highlights of the year, especially when you come into a new business and they like give you all the financial information. It is like open kimono. So P&Ls, every piece of data about the business, people answering personal questions about their personal life, about their motivation, about their fundamental insights. We got to do our homework. I'm spending an hour before these calls downloading all this information, trying to get into the mindset of the founder, trying to like poke holes around, like see where things don't line up on the P&L and stuff. And then going into these calls, and man, some of them were like life and business changing, and like this huge exchange of enthusiasm and emotion.
If you like to nerd out like we do on other people's businesses or business models or business types, you get a front row seat with none of the responsibility.
Right.
It's amazing.
Like you have to do some hard shit, and I am encouraging you to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I actually did feel a lot of responsibility because it's privilege really to be in that seat and be like looking at people's financials and helping them make good decisions about their business. So it's not to say that coaching isn't a lot of work. I think that it can be a lot of work if you're responsible about it and you direct people towards things that can actually help them.
We realized that in some cases we had a knack for it. It's interesting to feel valued in that way. I think there's like an emotional component to coaching where people are making big steps forward and you're there for it. It's fun to put on that professional hat and be like, I'm walking into an implicit NDA situation. My job is to be like a board member for this person, to be a confidant, do everything I can within this hour and a half to get this person to where they want to go. We're charging $5,000 a year for this. And, you know, we wanted it to be this comfy price point because coaching is $5,000 a month
or a weekend,
paying 10 grand for a weekend or 5 grand or 15 for an intensive thing.
Right.
And we thought, well, wouldn't it be great if you could just get this on a P&L and make it a no-brainer? And I do think we have some product innovation. We want to keep the price point. People say, you guys don't sell enough. You need to up your sales skills, present the value, get people on board. And I see the value in that, but I also see the value in having 54 people doing one thing at once, building a community around it, and having people learn from each other as they're going through it. And so this is something that we are working on this summer, and we want to revisit in October at DCBKK to create something that is comfy on the P&L, that, hey, it's not one-on-one coaching, but it gets you set up to be able to get the most out of that type of experience. but it's also like you're making progress every month. It's a little nudge every month that you know you're improving and progressing. And hey, I'm not stepping up for the big $6,000 or the $15,000 advisor, but I know I'm making progress. And by the way, I've got my own vision and plenty of work to do. So I don't necessarily need to take on that all at once.
Yeah, more just inside baseball behind the Accelerator. Me and you kind of destroyed our lives a little bit last year with that experience because it was a ton of calls, physically not possible to run this business and do all these other cool things and have this many one-on-one calls. At the end of the Accelerator, we put out an offer and it didn't go over, if I'm being honest. Like, people didn't want it. And I think the reason why, and this goes back to what you just said a minute ago, is like it didn't have a community component to it.
Right. Here's my analysis. I think where we need to improve the Accelerator, I thought everybody loved the one-on-one sessions. We need to find a way to still have one-on-one sessions, but make them more efficient. People really enjoyed the Austin event, which was very no frills. I think we could improve on that element where we brought people to Austin. We talked about scorecards and team building and stuff. We had some barbecue. That was cool. And then I really think what we need is like a progression curriculum that better integrates this concept of, we would have these like ad hoc virtual sessions every month, but the attendance, you have 54 members in this first cohort, but for some of these sessions, you get 3, 4, 8 people come into the virtual session. So I think having a clearer progression over the 12 months where you'll get these takeaways. And if you don't come to the virtual session, you're going to get the homework. You can discuss it in the group chat. You can discuss it on your one-on-one. You can discuss it in your mastermind. So I do think we just need a cleaner, simpler product. It's almost like we can do a little bit less next time if we do it more elegantly and give clear deliverables for our clients. And then I think $5,000 a year for this ability to like walk through a 12-month progression. That's the vision for October.
I think we'll spend part of our summer trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's exciting. All right, so final piece of the business I want to give an update on today. I want to talk about remotefirstrecruiting.com and dynamitejobs.com. These are the businesses that we started in COVID. We have 2 team members that put their hands into the Dynamite Jobs machine to create a lot of the results our clients are paying us for. And then we have a lot of intelligent advisory. So we have Simon Payne, our CTO. We have Greg Valentine, our head of recruiting. They're looking at every job post. There's this amazing piece of infrastructure, which is like 600,000 candidate profiles, like a strong job promotional process, a great applicant tracking software.
Not only that, we send like 1 million emails or something last month to these people based on their job preferences.
Our head administrator, the customer success person that's working at DJ, has been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of continuity there. And then we have other people who come in and give advisory about certain clients or difficult jobs. There's like a little bit of a white glove nudge to every little thing that's happening at DJ, despite all the automation that we've built there.
This last month, I think we had probably our second best month ever.
Yeah.
And I was like, why?
Yeah. That's that DHH thing. It's like, we haven't put input into DJ besides an offhanded idea here or there at a team meeting for some years. And then all of a sudden we're having like shaping up to be one of our best quarters ever.
Yeah.
And so if y'all know why that's happening.
I'm going to tell you the answer, what to do. And it's nothing right now. That's the answer. You have this site that's starting to get some age to it. It's at least 5 years old.
Yeah.
And it's humming along. It's about to have maybe its best quarter ever. You have all these candidate profiles, It's like, well, what do you do? This is the part where you sit down and you're like, man, we should really hire a growth marketer. Don't you think if we just brought somebody in that could do some SEO, we could make double as much, So here's the answer. You don't do anything.
For us, it's like focus on the biggest opportunities as we see it right now. So we're open to feedback on any and all of this stuff. Making decisions as best we can as we go along here. Most of our listeners are as well. And just a note on remote first recruiting. Here's been the internal conversation with remote first recruiting. Q1 was really slow. And thanks to our CFO, like we know right away. Of course, our head of recruitment is keeping us updated every week. And so we had to right size the team. We had to let one recruiter go. Huge bummer. But honestly, I think Dan and Ian 3 or 4 years ago would have like bled for a few months
Yeah.
and taken on that financial burden. I respect founders who make that decision, but I think we had the sense like, we don't know when this is going to come back. And so we were able to have that conversation quickly, give a generous severance and help people move along in their career. It's a sucky thing, but I think there's a version of myself that would have just taken hits. And the problem is no one really benefits from that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was one thing that happened. The other thing is that from a marketing perspective, just facing down this brand that we built at Remote First Recruiting, where we are doing executive searches, we are hiring six-figure developers. When I think people who know us and when they know Greg, when they're ready to like hire that A player and pay like a North American salary, Remote First Recruiting is the team that can get that done for you in a few weeks.
Just to clarify, like no stutter steps, no hire them and they didn't work out. We vet them. They are the person for the job that you've been dreaming of. And you just spent like the most money you've ever spent on somebody in your team.
Yeah. And our clients are like, you guys are doing a better job at this than we do. So that's why we hire you guys. Meanwhile, in the background, we know that a significant portion of our hires are Latin America. And you're bringing people into your company for $1,500 a month, for $2,500 a month, for $3,000 a month, people who have experience dealing with North American clients, people who speak perfect English. And so really how we adjusted was trying to emphasize like, yes, we do these types of hires, but also take a look at like our portfolio and our track record in Latin America. And that's really come about because the same companies that are hiring these elite developers need support staff on the time zone. So they need customer service representatives and people booking calls on time zone. And so that's how we really built that competence. It's been an eye opener for me because when we started, it was like India and then it became the Philippines and then Eastern Europe. There's all these great places to hire in the world. And for me, South America was not on the radar 10 years ago at all. And I just think it's this next class of professionals, younger people who grew up with English. It's like a done deal now. It's sorted out. And that's become this incredibly viable, enormous hiring pool that a lot of our clients are taking advantage of.
One of our top team members is from there. And it just blows me away every time I talk to them.
Well, and a similar progression that happened in the Philippines, almost tempted to say the net quality does feel a little higher. There was this progression of agencies that serviced North American technology companies and innovation companies. And that whole class of professionals is now looking to break out and work directly for companies like ours. And I think those are the candidates that we're placing. So that's Remote First Recruiting. That's DJ. That's the Accelerator. That's our new events and DC Black. That's our CFO leaving. Can you really hire somebody to grow your company for less than $200,000 a year?
Final thoughts, DCBKK launch.
Yes. Looks like as of recording right now, we have well over 200 DC members registered. That's ahead of the pace we expected at this time. So we're expecting a great turnout in Bangkok in October. I'm always excited. That's one of the highlights of the year every year for me. It's just cool to see people's excitement here in July for something that's happening in October.
Getting ready to get on the plane. Head that direction.
All right. So I think it's dinner time.
Let's do it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you next Thursday as always.
Become a Tropical MBA insider today at tropicalmba.com. It's 100% free. You'll get access to some of our best business building resources, templates on everything from quarterly plans to budgets, all that, plus a weekly email from yours truly. Join the fun over at tropicalmba.com.